Hello, and welcome to Night Clerk Radio, episode 78, where we are doing our now roughly twice yearly tradition of cleaning out the Discord. I am almost called this for the second year in a row, a spring cleaning joke, because I'm an unoriginal hack. And if I don't think about something for 6 months, as I've said before, ironically remaking this joke that I've made before about reusing jokes. So, I'm on top of it. That's very supportive. Is co-host Ross Payton.
Hello. Yes. I am also here.
He is also here for what we're calling Discordant Morsels because it sounds funny.
Yeah. No, it's a very good show title.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is always fun to do because there's such a variety of stuff that gets posted to our Discord. Yeah. It's
a nice excuse to not just do like vaporwave and ambient and stuff. There's a bit of variety. Another stuff I really like. Yeah. But a quick note, we do generally pick a lot of things. I think there's like 20 or 21 things on our list for this episode. So I always preface these by saying discussions will be brief and just to give you a general idea of what we liked about it and what we think you'll like about it. And then for both time and coordination purposes, not a lot of our usual samples. I just recommend that you go out and check these out yourself if they sound even remotely interesting. I think everything we picked is at least worth listening to if it overlaps with what you're into.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. I mean, there's a variety of genres and there's some albums that, they're not going to click with you for some people. Like, yeah, acquired taste. But if you're listening to this podcast, you're into acquired tastes in general,
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right. Only the Epicurean sonic delights. So let's just get this started off. The first thing on my list, which ended up first just because it was the first thing we found. It's a good system, is Neon Gods by Failed State Audio. So I thought this was a really cool little cyberpunk inspired synth album.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like that middle line between vaporwave and ambient and synthwave that I kind of enjoy before it gets into like cheesy 280s cyberpunk synthwave, like too outrunny. Yeah. So it's got a lot of that like atmospheric brooding synths. Actually, in some sense, it kind of accidentally bookended this episode with that type of stuff because spoilers, the last thing we'll talk about is like a Vangelis.
Yeah, I was going to say, every ambient synth artist has a little thing on their synth called the vangelis slider. You have to go from 0 to 100% and then you just wait for the audience reaction to see where you should adjust it. You want more vangelis or less vangelis?
Yeah, exactly. So that those like big atmospheric synths.
Yeah.
Lots of fun little arpeggiators and stuff. It's epic choir, water sounds. I think is another thing I wrote down in my notes.
Yeah, I listened to this late at night and it was very, very good for a relaxing chill wave kind of like vibe. It is, very relaxing, very, but not like put you to sleep relax. Like it was nice. So yeah, I quite enjoyed it.
Yeah. So leaving the world of the relaxing behind.
Oh boy.
our second project album is Illegal Scam Hold Music.
So this is Yonko LLC, and I just want to say, like, I listened to this morning, and it is anxiety in an album, like, is the best way to describe it. I was listening to this, and my partner Maddie came in and is like, "What are you listening to? What kind of podcast is this?" No, this isn't a concept album about old music. And then like later they came back. It's like, why would anyone listen to this? It's like, it is just, if you have stress or anxiety about cold, this is either extremely cathartic and like, exposure therapy, or it's just going to be, nails on a chalkboard. Like it is. For what it is extremely intense because of whatever your associations with hold music is.
I think for me it worked because it's such a blend of that easy listening pastiche of all kinds from, I said from gentrified Latin to like string quartets. And it's punctuated by these like voice recordings and hold messages and all kinds of stuff. And I just think it's a really fun concept album. I liked it.
Oh, I was really intrigued by it. Like I really admired like their idea, this concept. And it is like, I've had to spend a lot of time on old music, and it's just like, yeah. So yeah, I'd probably listen to it again, but probably not when Maddie's home, because I don't want to put them through this again. It's just, man, it is a really good idea for an album and really well executed. So it's definitely worth checking out at least once. But I can totally understand if it's not your thing. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And it's also an interesting range of stuff, because Yonko LLC we've talked about before. Their Patreon, they share their stuff on our Discord, which is really cool, really appreciated. So there's actually just to highlight the kind of range that they put out is the second thing, our third thing of the episode is the second piece from them, and it's Pisces Third Decan Introduction, Movements 121, 122. The Zodiac Cycle is the full title.
Yeah.
And this is just like a cool little 1 minute psychedelic track. And to me, the only criticism I have is that it was far too short for me.
Yeah, no, I was expecting
I really liked it.
Yeah,
I really liked it. And maybe the Zodiac Cycle was part of a larger album and I should have investigated more.
Yeah.
Or looked. But and I maybe I will after we turn off the mics. But I like that kind of psychedelic drone stuff. So it really worked for me.
Yeah. I hope this is just like a single from an upcoming album or something like that. Yeah. No, psychedelic is a genre we should explore more in
Oh yeah.
Now that I think about it, because it's definitely haunted.
Yeah, it's almost like if there was like some music. Oh, no, not quite. I was thinking of like a music equivalent of a color wheel, but for like music emotions. And it feels like not opposite to, but like in some way adjacent to hypnagogic, which we of course talk about.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Like the same idea of like zoning out, but in a completely different way. I don't know. That's just off the top of my head, but color wheel for music.
Yeah.
But that's not the circle of fifths.
Yeah. You don't want to get those nostalgic chords or anything.
That's right.
Yeah. Our next one is Space Wave by Kraftwerk, not Kraftwerk, Kraftwerk. And yeah, it's really nice ambient. Like it's very just spacey. It's literally called Space Wave. And, a lot of this kind of synthesized like spacey ambient is just like, it just rolls over me in a very pleasant way. And it's just like, yes. And so I quite enjoyed it.
Yeah, I did too. Like Kraftwerk is someone who's been on a couple times before, generally for more signal wavy stuff like the Lotto and when we did Weather Channel music. And they had
that's right.
Like European weather broadcasts. We did that album.
Yeah.
But this was very different, which is like, it was just like big and vast and meditative and slushy. It's 3 pretty long tracks. So if you only want to invest time in one, which I don't recommend, listen to all of them. I think Vacuum, the last one, was probably my favorite.
Yeah, I'd go with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really, of course, the next album I really, really enjoyed. The Playground by CT57, who we have talked about previously on the podcast. With one of their, I forgot the name of the other album we reviewed.
Did a few. We did Anik Telasat was the big one.
Oh, yeah. But yeah, this is the album notes for this is the closing curtain to my childhood, hazy memories hard to make, and slowly being lost to time as I grow older. And like, I don't know. I really like this type of single wave that is very staticky, very lots of like lo-fi crackle in it and discordant, and it just sounds haunted and sad. And I would listen to this music when I was preparing to run Delta Green Impossible Landscapes. This is the music I'd listen to psych myself up to run a game of surreal horror, like where your memories are not what you think they are and that kind of thing. And like, this is just perfect for that kind of thing. Like it's, yeah, I've listened to this album multiple times, like even before we were prepping this episode. I mean, it's short too. It's like 20 minutes. So yeah, it's a nice little, I really do like the signal wave thing of short albums because when you listen to them, you feel like they've been going on forever and they're like, oh, wow, that was short. Like, I don't know, some time distillation here going on. But yeah, I thoroughly enjoy it. Yeah.
Yeah, me too. I really like CT57's like curation first approach. To signal wave, which is I think the way to do it versus like it's obviously produced and made into their own art, but it's less about like chopping and screwing it up or like artificially making it too creepy. I also think there's a discussion for like a topic episode because it also came up on the Discord is like ambiguity is nostalgia, because I think there's a lot of like blank space in these types of albums that you can kind of imprint your own nostalgia, emotions, memories onto, which I think also people like, and that makes it more enjoyable, easier to engage with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I like that idea. Yeah, nostalgia is often presented as like this warm, comforting thing, but yeah, it's a little more complicated than that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And one thing I also want to know with this album is every single track has its own album art. You click on the individual tracks on Bandcamp, you get a bunch of like, the album cover is a very creepy, like, I'm not sure if it's CGI generated to look like VHS, like a still from a VHS tape of a playground slide at night, but I think it is CG generated, but like it's extremely creepy. It's very analog horror, actually. I think, that's the thing. Maybe that's the reason why I like, because it is very analog horror in sound form, in acoustic form.
Mm-hmm. And kind of keeping the signal wave adjacent trend going, we have David Lynch adjacent media, technically. Just somewhat unfair to Dean Hurley. Dean Hurley's been on the show before because of their involvement in music for Twin Peaks and other David Lynch projects, but this is their own thing. So this is Romance and Dean Hurley. And this is like it's called River of Dreams, but it's like they sort of advertise it as like music cues are inspired by the type of music you might hear in like a daytime soap opera is sort of the general idea of this, according to the liner notes, which I get, like serialized melodramas.
Soap operas, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it's this weird vintage kind of serene television interlude music of various moods. There's like some jarring staticky moments here and there, but it's largely soap opera music. And I really like it. It worked well for me.
This is so fucking haunted, man. It is.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's extremely good, too. I really love this album because, they do like it. I'd be really interested to know like how much of the music is like original composition versus plunderphonics, because I imagine there's some of each, and I can't tell which is which. Like, obviously, there's sample like quotes from soap opera. It's very dramatic, moments in the show. In these, who knows? They probably pull, because of YouTube, they can pull like clips from shows from 30 to 50 years ago or whatever, and just like pull it in there and work it into the album. Because they even mentioned like once again broadcast television samples by way of vintage bit crunched YouTube codecs from the source material here are all artfully inlaid in mosaic to form tear-stained compositions of troubled romance gone astray. Exactly. Really fucking good. Like, if there's one album you should listen to, well, listen to all of them, but this one in particular is really good.
What do we have next, Ross?
Yes, we have another really good album, Haxan Selected Works by Degerloof and Gallner, and there's an umlaut in there, so I definitely mispronounced that.
It's fine.
Yeah, it is. They're based in France, but so I don't know if they're German or French, and they just happen to be living in France. This is a experimental album themed after the 1922 silent film Haxan, which is a public domain now movie, but it's also been put on the Criterion Collection. It's like a silent film about witchcraft, taking from, historical accounts of what witches were supposed to be like, probably from, the witch's hammer and stuff like that. It's an early example of like really weird, like German expressionist special effects and compositions, and like superimposing jump cuts, all this, the state of the art of special effects in 1922. And they rescored it, and it's a really fucking good album. Like it's a lot of variety too. In this.
I got kind of duped by this album at first because I was familiar with the film, but didn't really put the names together at first. So when I was like scrubbing through it on my initial listen, I was like, oh, it's a nice little dungeon synth album. And then I looked, I was like, oh no, wait, this is like there's more going on here than most dungeon synth we listen to.
Oh yeah.
And I looked and I was like, oh, it's a film that you learned about, because it was really ahead of its time in terms of like being documentary style, but also like blending fact and fiction and kind of playing with the media. So this is a film I was familiar with and might need to rewatch, but yeah, this is just an awesome rescoring of it.
Yeah, no, and they use like, a lot of digital synthesized stuff, but they also use like orchestral elements too, like a lot of live instruments, and like it's a really unique blend of, instrumentation and synthesized. And it's really cool. Like it's a really complex album too. It is something that we could actually do a full episode on, just like sort of exploring this. So, and again, it's not, it starts out kind of dungeon synthy, but it opens up into, it is like, aside from like film score, you can't really give it a genre name, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Experimental. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, experimental. It was one of my favorite albums too. Aside, I like a lot of albums in this episode for some reason.
We got good taste in our patrons.
Yeah,
or we're easy to please. One of the two.
Mm-hmm.
Which I would say one of my favorite albums is this next one, "Sow Your Gold in the White Foliated Earth" by Death Prod. This is shared by Brian, who's like, I'm not sure how well it fits, but I found it interesting. There's a whole big summary article, which will be in the show notes. But this is like a neoclassical or like minimalist composition, but written for a specific set of microtonal instruments. So it's like these recreations of these Harry Parch, I believe is the name, instruments, who was like an experimental instrument maker. So he'd make like odd styled guitars that were in like different tunings and would design his own tuning systems and all these microtonal. Because I think one of the things that we forget is that what you think of as like in tune or what you're used to in terms of like tonality is artificial. Mm-hmm. It's like has this long cultural and historical record of, what did we consider to be middle C or concert A or something, and gets into this whole thing of like it entirely depends on sort of the music system that you grew up in is what's kind of aesthetically normal or pleasing to you. And there's all these other tonal systems and tunings that you can experiment with. And that's what a lot of this microtonal music is about. It's about changing the relationship between notes and intervals.
Oh, yeah. No.
That's like the idea.
No, the opening track on this album really hooked me. It is like a really unique sound. Because like it's also like these are metal and glass instruments, and you really say like the first track is very metallic, these tinging sounds, and like it's hard to describe.
Yeah.
Experimental in the best sense of the word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some of my favorite, because I do think messing around with that tuning and stuff. So kind of like a common recent example is King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard. It's like an experimental proggy band. They did, oh gosh, probably 5 years ago at this point, but they did Flying Microtonal Banana, just like a microtonal experimental album. It was really cool.
Oh, neat. So our next pick is a Nicholas Jar Essential Mix. So Essential Mix is an ongoing BBC One radio show where they would take, DJs, very popular DJs, and give them 2 hours to play a mix. And this is something I've known about for a long time, actually, because, before YouTube mixes were common or easily available, I would download essential mixes of DJs I like and listen to them. Like there's Drum Sound and Bassline Smith and like all these other DJs that I would just listen to these mixes over and over. And like, I listened to Nicholas Jar, and that's the first time I heard that. It opens up with this anecdote from Angelo Bottolini about the making Badalamenti, sorry.
I care about Angelo.
Yeah, it's the famous anecdote he tells about making the theme of Twin Peaks with David Lynch, and he just samples the whole of it and just goes into like, and it's just this incredible eclectic mix of music. Yeah, so I don't know much about Nicholas Jar, but it's really, really good and really an entertaining mix, and you won't be disappointed by listening to it. So if you
it's really cool. A lot of variety, a lot of like cool remixes of pop music.
Yeah.
Love an Angelo.
And just if you like EDM or IDM music, I would look up. There's tons of sites on the internet that let you download MP3s of essential mixes, or you can find a bunch of them on YouTube and other things. So yeah, look up like there's a DJ you like, like Fortet or whoever, look up, see if they've done an essential mix, because they really like these DJs want to show off, right? Like they really try and make a big, they put their A game in this. So it's very cool.
Yep. Which is kind of why we're we're inching towards what I jokingly call the real music scare quote section of this episode. So next up is an album I enjoyed a fair bit called Vital by Birdgrave, which is just this big, bombastic, doomy, droning post-rock metal. Just loud, just great to turn up and just stare at the wall.
Yeah, I was listening to this late at night, so I did not crank it up to, got neighbors and all that jazz. But
that's fair.
Yeah, I really do like the singing in this. Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. I kind of do want to, re-listen to it when I can blast it very loud, like the neighbors are gone. And yeah.
I don't have a lot of like other meta-analysis about it. Just, I really like it. I think if you do like that big doomy post-rock, it's probably something that's worth checking out. Along the same lines is Black Renditions by Spider God, which I don't even remember who posted this or how we got on this, but this is just, I think it's maybe if you're into the niche of what we talk about, maybe it's the least overlap with what you're into, which is just like thrashy black metal, just fast and loud, energetic.
Yeah.
Which I used to listen to a lot of, especially I had a friend who was real into like all that grindcore shit in like the late aughts, early 10s, and Carcass and Cannibal Corpse and all that, are even much, much older than that, of course. But that was the era in which we were mostly listening to it. And that's, of course, also just before the metal people. I know those are also much different than what this album is.
Yeah. Well, these are also black metal covers of pop songs.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was going to head into. Is that's that? No, it's fine. But yeah, that's the renditions part of Black Renditions. And it's all just.
I don't listen to as much metal as I used to. There was a time when I would listen to like, folk metal and speed metal, Japanese speed metal and things.
I did go to an Aluvite concert in Boston. So
oh man, I wish I could have. Yeah. There was a day when I listened to them quite a bit. Slaney, I think that was my favorite album. But yeah, like I've just kind of fallen out of it. But I think, considering how many metal musicians start dark ambient or dungeon synth projects, I feel like there's, a crossover, there's a pretty big Venn diagram overlay between, metal listener and dungeon synth appreciator or dark ambient appreciator. So
you're absolutely right. Yeah. I think it's kind of fun. It's very different from what I usually listen to. So it's nice to revisit that.
Next up, we have Coltrane, which I have no idea because it's CO right parenthesis, right parenthesis, right parenthesis, because this is a synthesis of Coltrane, the jazz musician, and Son O.
You don't say the O. That's what I was going to say.
Okay, yeah, Son.
It's just Coltrane and Son. So I was wondering if the name is just Train. You just leave out the...
No, I really like this. I'm not familiar with Sun. I've seen the name, but I've not really dived into their work. But it's really, for me, it's just like, oh, this is really cool jazz.
Really Sun is awesome. Yeah. One of my favorite, like I probably cliche take, but one of my favorite, like drone metal, doom metal bands, like noise rock. They're awesome. So it's the track is just Coltrane's saxophone work from Mars, which is a track of his. And it's just layered over the like ambient noise drone of Rabbit's Revenge, which is a Sun song. And it fucking works so well.
Yeah, no, I was really surprised. Like this is fucking great music. It's only like a 14-minute mashup. So it's an easy thing to check out. It's on YouTube. I don't even know if it's like got a Bandcamp release or anything. I think it's just like a fan mashup. It seems like.
Yeah, I think it's just a little fan project. It's not like a commercial track in that regard.
Yeah. But speaking of things that I've not heard of before this episode, The Comet is Coming, the NPR Music Tiny Desk Concert. NPR, National Public Radio, the American public radio station, has this ongoing thing called the Tiny Desk Concert, where they bring in groups and they play on a tiny desk in the offices of NPR. And they do it. They obviously record it for the radio, but they also put the videos on YouTube. And so it's like a 20-minute, 19-minute, 12-second little concert of The Comet is Coming, which is a group I'd not heard of before this. But according to the notes here, it is an instrumental jazz trio, takes music lovers out of their comfort zone into a music realm they may never have explored. So there is a sax player, a keyboards player, and a drummer, and like keyboard, like synth keyboard. And it's really cool, like to hear the synth in this jazzy, really energetic, really like just energy, just like a lot of like, I had a lot of fun listening to this. It was really,
it's really good. I don't know how connected they are, but they reminded me a lot of, there was a brief period, I don't know, like 5+ years ago of like brass busking style bands. So like Moon Hooch or like Too Many Zoos and stuff.
Too Many Zoos. Yeah.
We're like buskers, but classically trained, I guess, for lack of a better term. Like they all met in jazz school and stuff, and they would play busking music, but really technical or have other interesting aspects of it. So like Moon Hooch I always liked because the two saxophonists could really alter the timbre of their instrument to make it sound like electronic or synth sometimes, or they would play through like weird instruments and stuff. And this feels like taking parts of that, but layering more explicit, like electronica experimental over it with the synth. And I thought it worked really well. I really liked it.
I not even really thought of busking music as its own genre, but it really is because you really got to like, the whole idea is to grab the attention of people walking by and make them want to give you a buck or whatever. And so like, it has to be this like really attention grabbing, energetic music. You can't really do like a vangelis style like ambient thing.
That would be amazing.
Yeah.
If I had the money, I would get Matt Berry to do his Vangelis impression, but just play like a CS80 and like Union Station or something in New York dressed as Vangelis.
Oh my God. That does sound amazing. But yeah, we can dream. Do you want to introduce the next one?
Yeah, for sure. So the next one was posted by FFB. It's the Unknown Mortal Orchestra. It's a new album from them. I don't know how to describe them. They're a eclectic genre blend. I guess like rock, technically like psychedelic or prog or experimental rock.
According to their tags on Bandcamp, alternative, garage rock, indie, lo-fi, psych rock. Yeah. I definitely agree with like the lo-fi. There's a lot of like tape distortion, a lot of like we're fucking up the sound on purpose, kind of vibe, which is very cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's their fifth album, just V. I think a callback to their second album was just called 2 in Roman numerals is just II. But it's got all kinds, so many genres, so many, like you're saying, lo-fi effects, a lot of like poppy parts or like a little bit like disco soul stuff, but also like really interesting guitar work, everything, just a lot of instrumentation, a lot of genre variety, a lot of good musicality, and just a really, really all around. I thought it was a really enjoyable album. I really liked it.
Yeah, this is an album I think meant more, I won't say like 100% mainstream, but definitely like a little more trying to be more broadly appealing than like, vaporwave or something like it's.
Sure. I think that's true of a lot of some of the past few ones we've talked about. Yeah.
There's some really interesting liner notes to your album notes on the Bandcamp page. Yeah. It's like a little article about them. But yeah, it's not, like I said, I don't really listen to a lot of like alt or rock kind of music. And it's I would characterize kind of garage rock, kind of has that aesthetic going for it. So yeah. And
then while we're in the realm of music we don't really talk about much or listen to much, somebody also posted the new Aberdeen album, Held Together. So Aberdeen is a big brass band collective out of New York City. To me, most notable because Adam Neely's their bassist. And so he's been doing some like promoting work, but I don't think he really writes much or anything. I think he's largely in there as a performer. I guess I really don't know what their writing process is. It might be highly collaborative and everybody, but it's just an amazing collection of New York musicians, or it was at one time. They've probably all moved or spread out or expanded because you can record in 20 different locations now and put it all together in your mix. You don't all have to be in the same place anymore, but there's some amazing guitarists like Shub Saran. Jared Yee is their tenor saxophonist, and that man can solo. Jesus Christ, that dude can rip sax solos. You should just look up like Jared Yee sax solos because people have done all kinds of like memes and edits and like reworkings of all his solos just because they're like really good. Yeah. He's just a really great saxophone player. So I think this is a much more chill though. I don't want people to get the wrong idea from brass band. This isn't like Buddy Rich or like get that swing, kids. It's not like that. It's just it's much more like modern jazz rock, but they have like a large band.
Yeah, this is
very
not
fancy Chumbawamba, but I don't know. No, that's not right at all. But
yeah, I mean, I think jazz rock is the right term because it's not like lounge jazz. It's not like late night, like smoking at a bar kind of jazz. This is very like again upbeat and energetic, very tech. I mean, it sounds extremely complex and technical to me, and it sounds great and amazing. It does remind me, and because again, as sort of a novice to like, jazz in terms of like, appreciating and understanding it, it did remind me that other Adam Neely thing I listened to, the album that he put on tour from a year or two ago. I can't remember what it's called, but that was a band he was headlining in.
Was that his Sungazer?
Yes,
stuff?
Sungazer. Yeah. And just in terms of like, it's, fast paced, it's, amazingly well done and just very technical, very, very interesting compositions. There's some great sax solos. There's some great sax on this too. Yeah.
Absolutely. So then we'll move into something a little more chill, which is a short little chill step Barber Beats album, Unwind, Absolute Mayhem. Yeah, this was good music to work to, I think is probably what I would say about this. Just very relaxing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think maybe it's the one that might catch your ear the least. I think one of the issues is we kind of picked a lot of the most interesting stuff. And this is just like a nice little chill step album. Right.
Yeah.
Doesn't have like a lot of meta history to it, or it's not like weird covers or anything. It's just pretty straightforward.
Yeah, no, it is. And Barber Beats is kind of like lo-fi, becoming kind of like lo-fi as like work music to work or, just to have on without thinking about it too much.
Yeah.
It seems like just in general, like a lot of Barber Beats artists are sort of recognizing, we're just curating more than making, but like it's good stuff too. I do appreciate that, like they use the hashtag Mallsoft on this as well. But yeah, I think there's sort of a gradual evolution of Barber Beats artists. And this is a little different than I think Barber Beats even like 2 years ago, definitely 2 years ago or even 1 year ago. So like, yeah, it's interesting to see the gradual evolution of this genre, the scene. So our next one is just a song called In Stupendo by 647. It's a very our listener here, our Discord patron, he says this describes not lo-fi hip hop, but the song sounds like what I thought lo-fi hip hop sounded like before I knew what it sounded like. It feels more hypnagogic than a lot of stuff that is, labeled hypnagogic. So I think placing this between lo-fi and hypnagogic is sort of a good idea. It's only a 2-minute track, but it does have this weird ambiguity to it, but still like pleasant.
Yeah, it's a short little track. It's only like a minute, so it's hard to say too much about it. But I do think it's the confusion of lo-fi hip hop is interesting. That's something I would like to probe more. But I get it if you just heard the term and then heard this. Yeah. Also, just as a point before somebody corrects us, the artist is In Stupendo and the song is 647.
Oh, okay.
Which is, it's funny because the YouTube is one way and then the thumbnail is the other way. So I was like, which one is this? I was like, the YouTube channel is In Stupendo. So that's the artist.
Okay. Yeah. I see that.
It's flipped in the thumbnail.
Dang it.
For the video.
Yeah, they got me.
They got you. Got bamboozled.
Yeah.
But I do want to explore that like hypnagogic middle zone, particularly in terms of this track. Because like I said, it's fairly short. So it's hard to even zone out to.
Yeah.
I think I would have to look at the whole album that this is a part of. Because I bet I would like the whole album.
Yeah. Yeah. In Stupendo sounds like an artist we should check out more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because this is also well before the like lo-fi hip hop explosion or whatever you want to call it. This is 2016.
Oh, yeah. No,
so that's also interesting.
That is a good point. In Stupendo, according to their Bandcamp or their YouTube About page, let's see here. They've earned recognitions from Fader, Pitchfork, played on BBC One. He's performed at South by Southwest. So it looks like professional artist. Moving on. Interesting. Cool. So then another speaking of hypnagogic and sort of vaporwavy. This is an album called Contact by Data Point. It is balancing between public television and a tiny boombox, swimming in media, recording what we can, collecting memories. Here are some true and false collected memories. So yeah, very lo-fi, I thought hypnagogic when I was listening to this.
Yeah.
But yeah, Broken Machine Films. I guess that's a label, but yeah. I'm just looking at the label or the tags on Bandcamp now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, very like late night, lo-fi, vaporwave kind of album.
Yeah, I was a little unsure at first, just because, especially when you're listening to like 20 things, first impressions kind of matter. So the first track is like a little funkier, and I was like, oh no, I'm not so into that. But it quickly becomes this. Hypnagogic is good, slushy, droney.
I mean, there's a lot of it. There's like this signal wave thing of like this looping and like repetitive nature of it too. So it's kind of like I could like some influence or like the same vibe as infinity frequencies in some ways.
Yeah, because I mean, the liner notes do reference like media saturation and collecting memories and stuff. Mm-hmm. So like you were reading.
Yeah. And we're back at the beginning. It always comes back to this one thing. It's just vangelis. And
time is cyclical.
Time is cyclical. Visions and Prophetic Dreams, Volume 2 of Vangelis Tribute. This is a monster album. This is a lot of artists all doing a tribute or working. A lot of vaporwave artists, many whom we've mentioned before in the show, but also a lot that even I haven't heard of. And this is like, I think they posted this to YouTube and it's like almost 7 hours long. Total digital time, 6 hours, 59 minutes and 51 seconds. So yeah, this is this is all the fucking like Vangelis style ambient synth you could want.
But it's also got more than that. So if you do listen to this, I highly recommend they have either the continuous mix on YouTube or they have continuous mixes, sides A through H at the end of the Bandcamp release. It's just like tracks 80 through 87 are just each record, basically. I think they're each about 45 minutes.
Okay. Yeah. I see that. Yeah.
And this is one that, they still have them. This is one I was trying to talk myself out of buying, like the cassettes and VHS pack.
Yeah. They do look very good. 4
cassettes into 2 VHS. It's so tempting.
Yeah. Because they have a custom art for the VHS tapes.
Yeah, I might do it. Ooh. Anyway, $80 though. Damn. Anyway, what I really liked about this is that, yes, there's a lot of the what kind of cliche, what you think of as Vangelis, which is just a dude with the CS80 playing Blade Runner, which is unfortunately, I think a lot of people's like association with him. But he was a long time working composer who did a lot of different music. And I do think there are tracks in here, especially like it's so long that it's hard to listen to all of it, but it's kind of scrubbing through and focusing on artists I like. There are tracks in here that are more than just drone synth. It is like a tribute to like really a variety of his work. And of course, given the label and the artists, it is more into electronic stuff. There's not like orchestrated work or anything. I just do want to say that like I do appreciate it doing more than just 80 versions of Blade Runner.
Oh yeah. I mean, yeah, I was being reductive, but
I know, but I'm like that is really, in addition to just being a nice long mix of really good music, it really does explore a fair amount of variety.
Yeah, no, I'd listened to this. This came out earlier this month, March 3, I believe. Yeah, even before we started working on this episode, I had listened to hours of this, like, because it's a great like long album. Like there's such a variety of artists, and they all really have their own interesting sort of take on what Vangelis is. And just looking through some of the artists here, I do see Haircuts for Men. I see the Destiny that we have, I believe, reviewed before. Yeah.
There's a lot of people on here we've done before.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, there is a lot of variety. And like the YouTube version, which has the visuals of the VHS, is really interesting to put on as well, because there's a lot of really interesting like glitch art of, multiple layers of video being superimposed and reversed, and like creates a very interesting imagery to accompany the music.
thank you so much for listening, making it all the way to the end of this long, rambly discussion about a wide variety of music. I hope you check out all of this, but even what you do, I hope you enjoy it. I think I really enjoyed just the sheer variety of going through all of this.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. It was a lot of fun.
Next episode, we'll be back and a little more focused. We're bringing back a topic episode with architectural horror and all the things that relates to, what that is and how it relates to vaporwave, the usual bit for a topic episode. One of my, and I believe yours as well, kind of favorite subgenres of horror, because I do like architecture as an art form. Mm-hmm. So it stacks onto, and I do like liminality and all that type of stuff. And so, yeah, it'll be a good discussion. I'm excited to get into that.
Yeah, it's very cool. And it's sort of like reaching more critical awareness. Like more people are sort of like aware, like, oh yeah, we could do this kind of interesting stuff with horror.
Yeah, exactly. So if you like that or anything else we do, we always have more of it on our Patreon, Night Clerk Radio at patreon.com. We have 25 bonus episodes now, some essays, some plans for some other content, a very active and interesting Discord community that's really fun to engage with and just helps us keep the transmitter running. You can also find us on Twitter at Night Clerk Radio. I am at Burke McBurgenson. Ross is at Ross Payton. We're also Night Clerk Radio, basically anywhere.com, Facebook, Instagram, wherever other social media sites I've made and have now forgotten. As I always say, wherever you do choose to interact with our stuff, if you can just take a moment to rate, review, click a thumbs up, comment, whatever you're into, that really helps the algorithm enter. Yeah, we get flagged in the training data as something worth looking at, and that helps us grow. But most importantly, we always advocate word of mouth. Talk to friends, family, communities, share your interests. Hopefully some of these align with them. So we'll catch you next time. Bye.
Bye.